Candide. The Baron's son was in every way worthy of his father. His tutor, Pangloss, was the recognized authority in the household on all matters of learning, and young Candide listened to his teaching with that unhesitating faith which marked his age and character. Pangloss taught metaphysico, theologo, cosmolo, niology. He proved incontestably that there is no effect without a cause, and that in this best of all possible worlds, his lordship's country seat was the most beautiful of mansions, and her ladyship the best of all possible ladyships. "It is proved," he used to say, "that things cannot be other than they are, for since everything was made for a purpose, it follows that everything is made for the best purpose. Observe, our noses were made to carry spectacles, so we have spectacles. Legs were clearly intended for breeches, and we wear them. Stones were meant for carving and for building houses, and that is why my lord has a most beautiful house, for the greatest baron in Westphalia ought to have the noblest residence. And since pigs were made to be eaten, we eat pork all the year round. It follows that those who maintain that all is right talk nonsense. They ought to say that all is for the best." Candide listened attentively and with implicit belief, for he found Lady Cunegonde extremely beautiful, though he had never had the courage to tell her so. He decided that the height of good fortune was to have been born Baron Thunderten-Tronckh, and after that to be Lady Cunegonde. The next was to see her every day, and failing that, to listen to his master Pangloss, the greatest philosopher in Westphalia, and consequently the greatest in all the world. One day Cunegonde was walking near the house in a little coppice called the Park, when she saw Dr. Pangloss behind some bushes giving a lesson in experimental physics to his mother's waiting woman, a pretty little brunette who seemed eminently teachable. Since Lady Cunegonde took a great interest in science, she watched the experiments being repeated with breathless fascination. She saw clearly the doctor's sufficient reason, and took note of cause and effect. Then, in a disturbed and thoughtful state of mind, she returned home filled with a desire for learning, and fancied that she could reason equally well with young Candide, and he with her. On her way home she met Candide and blushed. Candide blushed too. Her voice was choked with emotion as she greeted him, and Candide spoke to her without knowing what he said. The following day, as they were leaving the dinner table, Cunegonde and Candide happened to meet behind a screen. Cunegonde dropped her handkerchief, and Candide picked it up. She quite innocently took his hand. He as innocently kissed hers, with singular grace and ardor. Their lips met, their eyes flashed, their knees trembled, and their hands would not keep still. Baron Thunderten-Tronckh, happening to pass the screen at that moment, noticed both cause and effect, and drove Candide from the house with powerful kicks on the backside. Cunegonde fainted, and on recovering her senses was boxed on the ears by the Baroness. Thus, consternation reigned in the most beautiful and delightful of all possible mansions.